In the heart of Africa, a story so strange, so terrifying, you struggle to believe it, an African woman who gave birth to a snake. Keep watching to uncover the truth. Deep in the heart of Africa, surrounded by thick forests and rolling hills, lay a peaceful village called Abesam. Life in Abesam was simple. The people farmed the land, raised animals, and told stories around their fires at night. But one story would rise above all others and forever change the village's fate. It began with a young woman named Amora. Amora was no ordinary woman. Her beauty was like the sunrise, warming the hearts of those who saw her, and her laughter could make even the grumpiest elder smile. But it wasn't just her looks that set her apart. Amora was kind, generous, and wise beyond her years. Her husband, Kofi, a hardworking farmer, often said he was the luckiest man alive to have her by his side. For years, the couple dreamed of having children. They prayed to the gods, visited healers, and followed the advice of elders. When Amora finally became pregnant, it felt like the answer to their prayers. Little did they know, their joy would soon turn into something no one could have predicted. At first, Amora's pregnancy seemed normal. She had cravings for sweet mangoes and spicy soups, which Kofi happily provided. As her belly grew, the village women teased her about how many children she might be carrying. "Amora, maybe you're having twins," one woman said. "Or triplets," added another, laughing. Amora smiled, but she couldn't ignore the strange sensation she felt. Her baby moved more than normal, almost as if it was swimming inside her. Some nights, the movements were so strong that she couldn't sleep. Then came the dreams. Every night, Amora dreamed of snakes. They slithered through fields, coiled around trees, and stared at her with glowing eyes. In one dream, a massive snake spoke to her in a deep, rumbling voice. "Your child will be different," it said. "Do not fear what you cannot understand." Amora woke up trembling, unsure if the dream was a warning or a message of hope. She told Kofi about it, but he dismissed her concerns. "Dreams are just dreams," he said, stroking her hair. "Our child will be healthy and strong. Don't let your imagination scare you." But Amora couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As the months passed, more unusual things began to happen. Amora's belly grew much larger than anyone had expected, even for a multiple pregnancy. The midwife, Auntie Efua, who had delivered babies for decades, looked worried when she examined her. "I've never seen anything like this," Auntie Efua whispered to Kofi. "Her body is strong, but the child inside, it feels different. Unnatural." Kofi tried to stay calm, but fear gnawed at him. He loved Amora deeply and couldn't bear the thought of losing her or their child. He prayed silently, hoping the gods would protect them. Meanwhile, the villagers began to gossip. Some said Amora's strange pregnancy was a blessing from the gods. Others whispered that it was a curse. "Maybe she angered the spirits," one elder suggested. "Or maybe the child will bring good fortune," another countered. Amora tried to ignore the rumors, focusing instead on preparing for the arrival of her baby. But deep down, she was scared. One stormy night, as thunder rumbled in the distance, Amora went into labor. Kofi rushed to fetch Auntie Efua and the other midwives, who quickly arrived with their tools and herbs. The entire village gathered outside the hut, waiting anxiously for news. Inside, Amora screamed as pain rippled through her body. Sweat poured down her face as she gripped Kofi's hand tightly. Auntie Efua encouraged her, but her own hands trembled as she walked. The labor lasted for hours, longer than anyone had expected. Amora's cries grew weaker, and the midwives exchanged worried glances. Then, at the height of the storm, something extraordinary happened. Instead of the cry of a newborn baby, there was a strange hissing sound. Everyone in the room froze. Slowly, Auntie Efua lifted the cloth covering the newborn. What she saw made her scream and drop it. There, lying on the mat, was not a baby, but a snake. The snake was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Its scales were black as night, with golden markings that shimmered in the dim light. Its eyes were bright and intelligent, almost human-like. It coiled and uncoiled slowly, as if testing its surroundings. Amora, too weak to sit up, whispered, "What is it? Is my baby alive?" Auntie Efua, trembling, managed to say, "It's a snake." The midwife screamed and ran out of the hut, some yelling that it was a curse. Kofi stared at the creature, his face pale with shock. He backed away, his legs shaking. "No," he muttered. "This isn't possible. This can't be our child." But Amora, despite her exhaustion, felt a strange pull toward the creature. She reached out a trembling hand, and the snake slithered toward her, resting its head on her palm. Tears streamed down her face. "It's my child," she said softly. News of the snake child spread quickly, and the villagers were horrified. Some believed Amora had been cursed for angering the spirits. Others thought she was a witch who had given birth to a demon. "The gods are punishing her," one elder declared. "She must leave the village," another said. "That creature will bring us bad luck." Amora and Kofi became outcast overnight. People refused to speak to them or sell them food. Even children avoided them, running away whenever they approached. Despite the rejection, Amora refused to abandon the snake, which she named Zoe. She treated it as she would any child, feeding it milk and singing lullabies. Kofi, however, struggled to accept the situation. "This isn't normal, Amora," he said one night as they sat in their empty hut. "That thing, it's not a child. It's a monster." Amora looked at him with tearful eyes. "I carried it in my womb for 9 months, Kofi. It's our child, no matter what it looks like." The villagers soon decided that Amora and Kofi had to leave. The chief summoned them to a meeting and spoke firmly. "For the good of the village, you must go," he said. "Take the creature with you and never return." Amora pleaded with them, but their hearts were unmoved. Left with no choice, she and Kofi packed their belongings and set off into the forest. Zoe slithered behind them, its golden markings glowing faintly in the moonlight. The forest was vast and full of dangers, but Amora and Kofi managed to build a small hut near a river. Life was hard, but they adapted. Amora continued to care for Zoe, who grew larger and stronger each day. Kofi, however, grew distant. He spent more and more time away from the hut, hunting or gathering food. He couldn't bring himself to love the creature that had replaced the child he had dreamed of. One day, while Amora was washing clothes by the river, she was confronted by a group of hunters. They had heard about the snake child and came to see if the rumors were true. When they saw Zoe coiled near the hut, they raised their weapons. "We can't let this creature live," one hunter said. "It's unnatural." Amora stepped between them and the snake, her arms outstretched. "Please," she begged. "He's done nothing wrong. He's my child." The hunters hesitated, but their fear of the unknown was too strong. As they prepared to strike, Zoe suddenly rose up, its golden markings glowing brightly. The hunters froze, their weapons dropping to the ground. The snake hissed, but the sound was soft and melodic, almost like a song. The hunters, overwhelmed by the sight, fled into the forest. Amora knelt beside Zoe, tears streaming down her face. "You're special," she whispered. "I don't know why, but you were sent to me for a reason." Word of the encounter spread, and the villagers began to reconsider their views. Some elders suggested that the snake child might not be a curse after all, but a blessing in disguise. "The gods work in mysterious ways," one elder said. "Perhaps the creature is here to teach us something." Amora and Kofi were eventually invited back to the village. They returned cautiously, unsure of how they would be received. To their surprise, the villagers welcomed them, though some still kept their distance. Zoe became a symbol of resilience and acceptance. It never harmed anyone and seemed to understand human emotions in a way that was almost magical. Over time, the village learned to embrace the unusual family. Amora's unwavering love for her child inspired everyone, reminding them that true love knows no boundaries. As the years passed, Zoe grew into a magnificent creature, protecting the village from wild animals and guiding lost travelers through the forest. It became a legend, its story passed down through generations. Amora's name was forever remembered as the woman who taught the world that love can conquer fear, even in the face of the bizarre and the unknown. And so, the tale of the woman who gave birth to snakes lived on, a reminder that sometimes, the most extraordinary stories come from the most unexpected places. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an exciting new tale. See you in the next one. Some churches save souls, others destroy them. What you're about to see will change the way you step into any church forever. Watch carefully, this will shock you. In the busy heart of Accra, a teenager's curiosity led him to shocking truths about a famous prophetess. What he discovered will surprise you, and the way it all ends will leave you speechless. Mama Divine Vision's church was like no other. It stood at the center of Adenta, with people coming from all over to witness the so-called miracles she performed. She had everyone in the church believing that she could see into their futures, that she had a direct line to God. Everyone thought her prophecies were real, but Emmanuel, a young man who had been attending for months, began to doubt. One Sunday, as Mama Divine Vision delivered another prophecy, Emmanuel couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Her words felt rehearsed, and the way people responded to her seemed more like an act. Was this really the work of God? Or is something fishy going on? Nana Akua, later known as Mama Divine Vision, grew up in a small village in Ashanti region, raised by loving and devout parents. She was a good girl, respectful, caring, and obedient. Her dream was always to serve God, to become a prophetess who could guide people to salvation. But she didn't know how to make that dream come true. She worked hard, stayed humble, and prayed for a sign. But one day, she met Kofi, a man who changed everything. Kofi was smooth-talking, charming, and filled with promises of greatness. He told her that in order to truly become a prophetess, she had to have power, real power. Power that came from beyond the normal. He introduced her to dark spirits and rituals that would unlock her true potential. Mama Divine Vision didn't know better, and her hunger for success led her down a path she could never return from. Mama Divine Vision stood before her congregation for the first time, trembling with excitement. She closed her eyes, pretending to listen to God, and then opened her mouth to speak. "The Lord has shown me that your business will prosper in 7 days if you sow your seed of faith today," she said, pointing to a man in the front row. He smiled, believing her prophecy, and sowed a seed with a large sum of money. As the days passed, Mama Divine Vision began to rely more and more on the dark spirits that Kofi had introduced to her. When she spoke in church, she felt a surge of energy, as if something was controlling her. It wasn't God, it was something much darker. Demons would possess her, making her speak in tongues, delivering prophecies that left people in awe. She became more powerful with each passing day. People came to her for healing, for answers, and for guidance. And every time, she would perform a miracle, as if by magic. But behind the scenes, Mama Divine Vision was using dark rituals to summon the spirits that would make her prophecies come true, for a price. Mama Divine Vision knew the power of healing. it was the most powerful tool in her bag of tricks. She would tell her followers that they were healed of diseases, addictions, and even curses if they gave enough money to the church. And it worked. The people who came to her for healing would leave feeling better, but the truth was, they hadn't been healed at all. One woman, Akojua, came to her church, desperate for help with her sick daughter. Mama Divine Vision promised her that the girl would be healed. But in exchange for the miracle, Akojua was told to give everything she had, her savings, her house rent, even her last food money. When Akojua returned to Mama Divine Vision months later, she was devastated. Her daughter's condition had worsened, not improved. But Mama Divine Vision had already moved on to her next miracle, and Akojua was left with nothing. Mama Divine's prophecies didn't just destroy individuals, they tore apart families. One man, Kwame, came to her church seeking help with his troubled marriage. Mama Divine Vision told him, "The Lord has shown me that your wife is causing your financial ruin. You must separate from her if you ever want to prosper." Kwame, heartbroken, confronted his wife, accusing her of being the cause of all their problems. The result? A bitter divorce that left both of them struggling, all because of a lie Mama Divine Vision told. Another woman, Elmina, was told by Mama Divine Vision that her husband was cursed, and if she didn't leave him, her life would be ruined. Elmina followed the advice, and soon after, her life spiraled into chaos. She lost her job, her home, and was left alone. The curse wasn't from her husband, it was from the lies of Mama Divine. To keep her followers in check, Mama Divine Vision used charms and curses. She would offer them special blessings that she claimed would protect them from evil. But these blessings came with a price. They had to give money, their time, and their loyalty to her. If they ever left her church, she warned them, they would face a lifetime of misfortune. If anyone dared to speak out against her, they would face a curse. Their jobs would be lost, their families would turn against them, and nothing would ever go right again. And every time, they would return to her, begging for forgiveness and asking her to lift the curse. She had them under her control. Emmanuel had had enough. One day, he stood up during one of Mama Divine's services and shouted, "You're a fraud. You don't speak for God. You speak for demons." The crowd gasped, and Mama Divine Vision glared at him. "You've been deceived by the devil," she spat. "You will never prosper if you leave this church. Your life will be cursed." But Emmanuel was determined to expose her. "You've ruined so many lives with your lies, Mama Divine. It's time for the truth to come out." The confrontation was tense, but Mama Divine Vision quickly regained her composure. "Leave now," she ordered, "or your life will never be the same. You'll regret this." Emmanuel didn't back down. He knew he had to expose her for who she truly was. It was time for the people to see the truth. Mama Divine Vision had mastered the art of manipulation. She convinced her followers that anyone who left her church would face a lifetime of misery. "You will be cursed, your life will be ruined, and nothing good will happen to you," she warned them. But the truth was far different. The curses weren't from God, they were the result of Mama Divine's dark magic. She used fear to control them, to keep them coming back, to keep them under her thumb. And every time someone left, they found themselves in trouble, losing jobs, facing illness, or dealing with financial ruin. Mama Divine Vision was no longer just a prophetess, she was a celebrity. The church was packed with people every Sunday, all eager to hear the next big prophecy, to witness the next supposed miracle. She had perfected the art of manipulation, and the people around her were none the wiser. With every service, she became more powerful, more confident. But behind the scenes, she was more dependent on the dark spirits that had helped her rise to power. Each prophecy, each miracle, was a calculated move, a way to keep her hold on the congregation. She convinced them that only she had the power to stop the curses in their lives. People came to her with broken hearts, desperate to hear that their marriages would be saved, that their jobs would improve, that their children would be healed. But what they didn't know was that Mama Divine's cures were nothing but lies, and the more they gave her, the deeper they were trapped. Mama Divine's influence grew so powerful that even the local authorities feared her. She had convinced the community that anyone who spoke out against her would suffer. Even the smallest hint of opposition could lead to their lives falling apart. Her charm was undeniable, and her grip on the congregation was tightening. One day, a woman named Afia came to Mama Divine's church seeking help. Her husband, Kwabena, had been distant for months, and their relationship was deteriorating. Mama Divine Vision immediately told Afia that Kwabena had a spiritual problem, and that if she gave a large offering, she would receive a solution. Afia, desperate for a way to save her marriage, gave away every last bit of her savings. 2 weeks later, Afia found out that her husband had been cheating on her, and the problem wasn't spiritual, it was just a lack of trust. But by then, it was too late. Mama Divine Vision had already taken her money, and the damage to Afia's marriage was beyond repair. It wasn't just the lies that hurt her followers, it was the punishment for living. When someone tried to break free from Mama Divine's control, their lives would spiral into chaos. Take Kojo, for example. He had been attending Mama Divine's church for years, and everything seemed fine until he questioned one of her prophecies. He started to see through her facade and realized that everything was a scam. He decided to leave the church, but what followed was a nightmare. Kojo lost his job. His car broke down. His relationship with his family started to deteriorate. And then, he began to experience physical illnesses that no doctor could explain. His life seemed to fall apart, and within weeks, he found himself knocking on Mama Divine's church door, begging for forgiveness. But she didn't welcome him back with open arms. "You tried to leave, now you must suffer the consequences," she said coldly. "You cannot escape my power." For every person who believed in her, Mama Divine's manipulation went deeper. She targeted marriages, relationships, and even friendships, turning people against each other with her so-called prophecies. One of her most devastating prophecies came when she told a young woman named Esi who came for vacation from abroad that her mother, Mema Kojua, was involved in witchcraft. She said that unless Esi paid for an expensive ritual and neglect her mother, she will soon lose the work she is doing abroad, get deported, and lose all her properties abroad and become so jobless and frustrated. Esi was distraught but trusted Mama Divine, handing over the money without hesitation and chased her mother out on the streets from the house she built for her. Sadly, Esi's mother died a couple of months later after she fell sick as a result of the trauma and rejection she faced. After her death, they all found out that she was not a witch but a kind and loving woman who always wants the best for her daughter. Mama Divine Vision had used Esi's fears to destroy her relationship with her mother and also made her lose her, and when Esi cut ties with Mama Divine Vision, she faced the same curse as the others and lost everything after facing a legal issue from her workplace abroad that sent her to jail, and she also got deported back home. The church was not just a place of worship, it was a money-making machine. Mama Divine Vision had perfected the art of spiritual manipulation, and every part of the service was designed to keep people hooked. The prayers, the miracles, the prophecies, they were all carefully orchestrated. Each miracle came with a price. Every healing was followed by an offering, and each prophecy required a donation. The more money Mama Divine Vision received, the more powerful she became in her own eyes. And the followers kept coming back, believing that they had to keep giving in order to keep their lives in order. They believed that the more they gave, the more they would be blessed. But the truth was, the only person getting richer was Mama Divine Vision herself. As Mama Divine's power grew, so did her confidence. But there was a nagging feeling in the back of her mind. What if someone truly found out about her lies? What if someone exposed the dark powers she was using to manipulate people? One day, Emmanuel returned to the church. This time, he wasn't alone. He brought with him a group of former members who had finally seen through Mama Divine's deceit. They were ready to expose her for who she truly was. "Mama Divine," Emmanuel shouted, standing at the front of the church, "you're not a prophetess. You're a fraud. You've ruined so many lives with your lies, and it's time the truth comes out." The congregation gasped, unsure of what to believe. Mama Divine's face turned red with rage. "How dare you? You'll regret this. Your life will fall apart, just like all the others who live." But this time, Emmanuel was ready. "No more lies, Mama Divine. Your power is nothing but a curse." The fight for the truth was on. Emmanuel and the group of former members began gathering evidence, talking to those who had fallen victim to Mama Divine's manipulation. Slowly, the walls of deception began to crumble. People started to wake up, realizing they had been living in fear for years, controlled by a woman who had no real power. Mama Divine Vision fought back, using every tactic at her disposal. She spread rumors, threatened her former followers, and even tried to perform more miracles to maintain her influence. But the truth had already begun to spread, and soon, her church began to empty out. The day of reckoning came when the authorities finally intervened. After years of reports and testimonies, the church was shut down, and Mama Divine Vision was arrested for fraud and manipulation. In the end, her reign of lies had come to an end. The people she had hurt began to heal, and the community slowly rebuilt itself, stronger than before. The damage done by Mama Divine Vision was not easily undone. Families that had been torn apart struggled to rebuild their relationships. People who had lost everything to her false promises had to start from scratch. But as time went on, they learned to trust again and rebuild their faith, not in the false prophetess, but in each other. Emmanuel, the brave young man who had first spoken out, became a hero. His journey to expose Mama Divine Vision was a long and difficult one, but in the end, it had been worth it. And so, the story of Mama Divine Vision came to an end, but the lessons learned would last a lifetime. After the fall of Mama Divine's church, Emmanuel's life slowly started to piece itself together. He was no longer haunted by the guilt of allowing the church's falsehoods to flourish. Now, he focused on healing himself and helping others who had been hurt by Mama Divine's manipulations. Emmanuel found peace by offering counseling to the members who had been part of the church, guiding them through the painful process of detaching themselves from the fear and guilt Mama Divine Vision had instilled in them. He worked alongside local authorities and other support groups, ensuring that the community would never fall under the spell of a manipulator like Mama Divine Vision again. The final lesson was clear: never place blind trust in anyone, no matter how convincing their words or powerful their claims may seem. True spirituality lies in the love and support we give each other, and in the truth we seek for ourselves. Mama Divine Vision had fallen, but from the ashes, a community was reborn, stronger, wiser, and ready to face the future with eyes wide open. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an exciting new tale. See you in the next one. Curiosity can be exciting, but not everything online is safe. The internet promises wonders, but behind the screen lurks danger which can ruin a child's life forever. Parents, this is a warning you can't afford to ignore. Stay tuned.
Stop it, Kwame. It's hurting me. Essie was sitting outside on the veranda. Her little hands were playing with the edge of her bright kente dress. The warm Harmattan wind blew gently, making her nose feel a little ticklish. The day was calm, and she liked it. The sun wasn't too hot, and it was a nice time to sit and dream of fun adventures. Inside the house, her mother, Auntie Abena, was humming an old song as she chopped some vegetables in the kitchen. The sound of the knife hitting the board was steady, like music. Her father, Mr. Kofi, was sitting at the table reading a newspaper. Essie's older brother, Kwame, was usually her playmate. Together, they spent a lot of time playing games, building forts, or watching cartoons. But today, Kwame looked different. He was sitting on the couch, looking at his tablet. His face looked excited, like he was up to something. Essie was curious. She walked over to him and pulled at his shirt. "Kwame, what are you doing?" she asked. Kwame looked up and smiled. "Essie, come and see this video. It's fun," he said. He patted the space next to him, asking her to sit beside him. Essie wasn't sure. Kwame sometimes watched strange things on the internet that didn't make sense to her. But she trusted him because he was her big brother. Slowly, she sat next to him. Kwame held the tablet so both of them could see. The video showed people acting in a strange way. They weren't laughing or talking like the cartoons Essie loved. Their movements were big and funny, and the sounds they made didn't feel right. "What is this?" Essie asked, feeling confused. Kwame just shrugged and grinned. "I don't know, but it looks fun. Let's try it." Essie wasn't sure. She felt uncomfortable, but Kwame seemed excited. "Okay," she said quietly, even though she wasn't sure about it. They went to the bedroom, away from their mother's sight. Kwame started copying the people in the video, and he told Essie to do the same. But as soon as Essie tried, she felt a sharp pain. "Stop it, Kwame! It's hurting me!" she shouted with tears running down her eyes. Kwame stopped immediately. His face looked sad. "I didn't know it would hurt. Maybe we did it wrong," he said. Essie stepped back, shaking. "I don't want to do it again. It's not right," she said, feeling scared. Kwame nodded, looking sorry. "I'm sorry, Essie. We won't do it again." The next morning, Essie woke up feeling sad. She couldn't forget what had happened yesterday. Every time she remembered it, her chest felt tight, like something was wrong. She sat quietly at the breakfast table, pushing her kenki and fish around her plate. "Essie, are you okay?" Auntie Abina asked, stopping to pour tea. Essie wanted to talk, but she stopped herself. What if her mother got angry? What if Kwame got in trouble? She shook her head and said softly, "I'm fine." Auntie Abena looked at her, but she didn't believe her. "Are you sure? You're so quiet today," she said. Essie nodded quickly, not looking up from her plate. Auntie Abena sighed and decided not to ask anymore. Later that day, their neighbor, Madame Akosua, came over. Madame Akosua was a retired teacher who was always kind and helpful. She often brought fruits or snacks for Essie and Kwame. "Essie, why do you look so sad today?" Madame Akosua asked, sitting next to her on the veranda. Essie didn't know what to say. Her hands were shaking in her lap. Finally, she couldn't keep the worry inside anymore. Tears filled her eyes, and she whispered, "Madame Akosua, Kwame showed me a video, and we tried something from it. It hurt me, and I don't know why. I'm scared." Madame Akosua looked at Essie with a soft, understanding face. She put her hand gently on Essie's shoulder. "Oh, my dear, thank you for telling me. It's very brave of you to talk about it. What you saw was not meant for children. You should never try anything that feels wrong or makes you hurt." Essie wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "But why do people make such videos?" she asked, feeling confused. Madame Akosua sighed. "Some people make things that are not good for children to see. You must always remember that your body belongs to you. No one, Not even your brother should make you do anything that feels bad. Essie nodded slowly. She felt a little better after talking to Madame Akosua. Madame Akosua promised to talk to Auntie Abena and Mr. Kofi about what happened. That evening, Auntie Abena called Essie and Kwame to the living room. Mr. Kofi put his papers down and looked at them with a serious but kind face. "My children," Auntie Abena started, her voice calm but firm. "Madam Akosua told me what happened. First, I want you to know that I am not angry, but we need to talk about it." Kwame felt uncomfortable. His head was low and he didn't look at his mother. "There are things in this world that are not for children," Auntie Abena continued. "I am sorry for not guiding you better. Kwame, you are the older sibling. You should protect your sister, not lead her into things that are wrong." Kwame's voice was soft. "I'm sorry, Mama. I didn't mean to hurt Essie." Auntie Abena hugged both of them. "From now on, we will talk more. If you don't understand something or it feels bad, you can always come to me or your father. Your safety and happiness are the most important to us." In the next few weeks, Auntie Abena spent more time with Essie and Kwame. She taught them about respecting each other and how to trust their feelings. She also made sure they could always talk to her about anything that worried them. Kwame wanted to make up for what happened. He started looking more carefully at what he watched online to make sure it was safe for Essie and him. Essie felt better, knowing that she had adults to trust. The bond between her and Kwame grew stronger, and their home felt like a safe place full of love. And so, Essie and Kwame learned a big lesson that day. It's okay to be curious, but your safety and feelings must always come first. The story ends with a warm family moment and an important message. Talking, trusting each other, and asking for help are very important in life.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an exciting new tale. See you in the next one. When punishment turned cruel, a secret from the deep ocean rose to the surface. She wasn't just a girl, she was a mermaid's daughter. Watch on, the revelation will leave you stunned.
How far would you go to protect your child? At what point would you stop brushing off their pain and take a good look at what they are going through? What if, in your silence, your child suffers great pain from someone they are supposed to trust? These are tough questions that challenge love, loyalty, and the responsibility of being a parent. But let me ask you this, dear viewer. If you found out that your child's pain was coming from someone who should be there to nurture and guide them, would you step in or ignore it? Chinonso came home from school one day, tears running down her face. Her school uniform was dirty, and the marks from her teacher's cane were still visible on her arms. She wiped her tears quickly as she walked into their modest but cozy home. "Mommy, Mommy!" Chinonso called out as she entered the sitting room, her voice quivering. Her mother, Ngozi, was seated on a chair, reading an old book. She looked up for a moment, her face showing a mix of concern and annoyance. "What is it now, Chinonso?" Ngozi asked, sighing as she marked her place in the book. She was used to hearing complaints from Chinonso, but often dismissed them, thinking it was just her being dramatic. Chinonso dropped her school bag and knelt beside her mother. Her face was swollen from crying. "Mommy, Mrs. Olamide beat me again today," Chinonso said in a broken voice. "She made me kneel in front of the whole class and hit me because I answered a question her daughter, Ifioma, couldn't." Ngozi frowned, but didn't seem too worried. Chinonso, how many times will I tell you to stop causing trouble in school? Maybe you did something wrong. Why do you always complain about your teachers? She said, looking uninterested. Chinonso's voice cracked as she pleaded. Mommy, I didn't do anything wrong. She doesn't like me because I'm always the best in class. And Ifeoma isn't. She calls me names and the other students laugh at me. It's not fair, Mommy. Please, you have to do something. Ngozi shook her head, her expression hardening. Chinonso, life is not fair. Not everyone will like you. Focus on your studies and stop provoking your teacher. I don't want to hear any more complaints. Chinonso's heart broke. She had hoped her mother would believe her, but once again, she felt ignored and alone. Slowly, she stood up, her shoulders sagging. Okay, Mommy, she said softly, turning to leave. In her room, Chinonso sat on her bed, staring at the fading light from the window. She held her math book, but her mind was far away. The sounds of her classmates laughing echoed in her ears, and the sting of the cane still burned on her skin. Why doesn't anyone believe me? She whispered to herself. Unknown to Chinonso, Ngozi was walking back and forth in the living room. She wasn't as indifferent as she seemed. Something about Chinonso's plea lingered in her mind, but Ngozi had secrets of her own, secrets she couldn't share. The next morning, Chinonso walked into school with a heavy heart. She took a deep breath and stepped into her class, her eyes darting to Mrs. Olamide, who was already glaring at her from behind the desk. Ifeoma, the teacher's daughter, sat in front, looking smug. Chinonso, Mrs. Olamide's voice sliced through the air. Why are you late? I'm not late, Ma, Chinonso stammered. Do you think I'm blind? Go and kneel at the back of the class. The class murmured as Chinonso walked to the back, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. She knelt on the cold floor, trying hard to hold back her tears. This had become her life. Day after day, Mrs. Olamide found new ways to humiliate and punish her. The other students didn't dare speak up, afraid they might become her next target. After school, Chinonso stayed behind, hoping to avoid Mrs. Olamide, but her plan failed. Chinonso, Mrs. Olamide called, her voice sweet but cold. Come here. Chinonso approached nervously, her heart racing. Yes, Ma, she asked, her voice trembling. Do you think you're better than everyone else because you always come first? Mrs. Olamide sneered. Let me tell you something, Chinonso. In this world, no one likes a show-off. If you keep trying to outshine my daughter, I will make your life even more miserable. Chinonso swallowed hard. Her voice barely came out. I'm not trying to outshine anyone, Ma. I just want to learn. The slap came out of nowhere, leaving Chinonso stunned and silent. Get out of my sight. Later that evening, Chinonso tried once more to talk to her mother. She showed her the marks on her arms, but Ngozi's response was the same. I'm tired, Chinonso. I have work tomorrow. Go to bed. Chinonso's heart ached. She felt so alone, and the anger and frustration inside her grew stronger each day. She didn't know how much longer she could bear it. The next day started with the same feeling of dread. As Chinonso prepared for school, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were swollen from the tears the night before. She fixed her uniform and combed her hair slowly, her movements slow and heavy. Chinonso, you'll be late, Ngozi called from the kitchen. I'm coming, Mommy, Chinonso replied quietly. The walk to school was a lonely one. The sun was bright and the streets were busy with people, but Chinonso felt invisible. Her mind replayed Mrs. Olamide's threats and the laughter of her classmates. When she got to school, she hesitated at the gate, feeling stuck. But the sound of the bell rang. and she forced herself to walk inside. She sat in the back of the class, trying to hide from everyone. When Mrs. Olamide walked in, the whole class went silent. She had a way of commanding respect that made everyone nervous. But for Chinyonso, her presence was like a storm. "Good morning, class," Mrs. Olamide said, her voice sharp. "Good morning, Ma," the class responded. "Before we begin today, let me remind you all that respect and obedience are important here. Some of you think you can do as you please, but not while I'm in charge." Her eyes rested on Chinonso as she spoke. Chinonso kept her head down, hoping not to attract attention. "Now, let's solve some problems." "Ifeoma," Mrs. Olamide's voice softened as she spoke to her daughter. "Come and solve this equation." Ifeoma stood up confidently and walked to the board, but soon it was clear she couldn't solve it. "Take your time, dear," Mrs. Olamide said sweetly. Ifeoma erased her work and started again, but her answer was still wrong. "Does anyone else know the answer?" Mrs. Olamide asked, scanning the class. Her eyes landed on Chinonso. "You dare miss know-it-all. Show us how it's done." Chinonso hesitated, knowing this was a trap. But with everyone watching her, she couldn't refuse. She walked to the board, her hands shaking as she picked up the chalk. With a deep breath, she focused on the equation. In no time, she solved it correctly. The class clapped, but Ms. Olamide's face grew darker. "Sit down," she snapped. Chinonso returned to her seat and her heart racing. By the time school ended, Chinonso was exhausted, not from the lessons, but from the constant tension. When she reached home, Ngozi was waiting for her in the living room. "How was school today?" Ngozi asked, her voice calm but laced with concern. "It was okay," Chinonso replied hesitantly. "Did anything happen?" Chinonso shook her head, not wanting to worry her mother. "No, Mummy, everything was fine." But Ngozi wasn't convinced. She could see the tension in her daughter's posture, the way her shoulders slumped as if she were carrying the weight of the world. Later that evening, as Chinonso did her homework, Ngozi stared out the window, lost in thought. The more she thought about her daughter's complaints about the bully she faces in school, the more unsettled she became. As the hours passed, the house grew quiet, but Ngozi's mind was restless. Memories she had buried long ago began to resurface. Memories of the power she had once wielded, the life she had left behind to protect her daughter. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside her. But deep down, she knew that if it came to it, she would do whatever it took to protect Chinonso, even if it meant unleashing the part of herself she had kept hidden for so long. The next morning, Ngozi decided to walk Chinonso to school. She didn't trust Mrs. Olamide, and her instincts told her to stay close. As they approached the school gate, Ngozi noticed the way Chinonso's steps slowed, her reluctance evident. "Chinonso," Ngozi said gently, "do you want me to talk to the principal?" Chinonso looked up at her mother, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and fear. "Will it help?" "It might," Ngozi said, "but only if you want me to." Chinonso hesitated, then shook her head. "No, Mommy, I'll be fine." Ngozi watched her daughter walk into the school, her heart aching. She wanted to shield Chinonso from the world, but she also knew that her daughter needed to face some battles on her own. But one thing was certain: if Mrs. Olamide pushed her too far, Ngozi wouldn't hesitate to act. The classroom was silent, the air thick with tension. Chinonso sat at her desk, her fingers trembling as she gripped her pen. She had tried to keep her head down all day, but Mrs. Olamide's simmering resentment had finally reached its breaking point. "Come to the front of the class," Mrs. Olamide commanded. Chinonso obeyed, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the eyes of her classmates on her, their curiosity and pity weighing heavily on her shoulders. "You think you're better than everyone else, don't you?" Mrs. Olamide sneered. "You think your brilliance gives you the right to disrespect authority?" "I didn't do anything wrong," Chinonso said quietly, her voice barely audible. "Silence!" Mrs. Olamide snapped, slamming her hand on the desk. "Kneel down." Chinonso dropped to her knees, her cheeks burning with humiliation. Tears pricked her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. At home, Ngozi was pacing the living room, her instincts screaming that something was wrong. She had felt uneasy all day, and the thought of Chinonso suffering at the hands of Mrs. Olamide filled her with a rage she could no longer suppress. As the hours dragged on, Ngozi decided to go to the school. She couldn't ignore her instincts any longer. When Ngozi arrived at the school, the scene she walked into made her blood boil. Chinonso was still kneeling at the front of the classroom, her face streaked with tears, while Mrs. Olamide berated her in front of the class. "What is going on here?" Ngozi's voice ran out, silencing the room. Mrs. Olamide turned, startled to see Ngozi standing in the doorway. "This is a classroom, Mrs. Olamide," she said stiffly. "You have no right to budge in here. And you have no right to treat my daughter this way." Ngozi shot back, her eyes blazing. "Stand up, Chinonso." Chinonso scrambled to her feet, running to her mother's side. "I've had enough of your games, Mrs. Olamide," Ngozi said, her voice low and dangerous. "You've been tormenting my daughter out of jealousy, and it ends now." Mrs. Olamide smirked, her confidence returning. "And what exactly are you going to do about it?" Ngozi's eyes darkened, her anger rising like a tidal wave. For years, she had suppressed the part of herself that made her different, the part of her that had the power to end this torment with a single thought. But now, a maternal instinct had taken over, and she was done holding back. In an instant, the air in the room shifted. The students gasped as Ngozi's presence seemed to grow larger, more commanding. Her eyes gleamed with an otherworldly light, and her voice echoed with a power that made the walls tremble. "You don't know who you're dealing with," Ngozi said, her voice vibrating like a storm. Mrs. Olamide took a step back, fear flickering in her eyes. "What? Who are you?" "I am a mother," Ngozi said simply, "and you will never harm my child again." The room seemed to blur as Ngozi's transformation began. Her skin shimmered like water under the sunlight. Her legs merged into a powerful tail, and she towered over Mrs. Olamide, her presence both beautiful and terrifying. The students screamed, scrambling to the corners of the room. Mrs. Olamide fell to her knees, trembling as she looked up at Ngozi. "Please," Mrs. Olamide begged, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, but sorry will not erase the pain you've caused my daughter. I will give you a chance to change. If I ever hear of you mistreating her or any other child again, you will regret it," Ngozi said. With a flick of her tail, Ngozi sent a surge of water through the room, drenching Mrs. Olamide and washing away her smugness. When the transformation faded, Ngozi stood in her human form once more, her expression calm but resolute. She took Chinonso's hand and led her out of the classroom, leaving Mrs. Olamide shaking on the floor. Outside, the sun was shining, and the air felt lighter. Chinonso looked up at her mother, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "Mommy," she said softly, "are you?" Ngozi made a soft smile, brushing a strand of hair from Chinonso's face. "Yes, my dear, and I will always protect you." As they walked home, Chinyonso felt a sense of safety she had never known before. She knew her life would never be the same, but for the first time, she felt truly free.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an exciting new tale. See you in the next one. From the dungeons of Elmina Castle rose two twins with a fire that could not be quenched, and their courage shook the foundations of the slave trade. Stay with me, their story must be heard.
The walls of Elmina Castle had seen many things. They had heard the cries of captives, felt the weight of heavy chains, and held secrets that no one dared to speak. But on this night, something happened that had never happened before. A woman named Ama sat in the dungeon, surrounded by other captives. Her body trembled, sweat dripped from her forehead. She was about to give birth. The other women whispered among themselves, "A baby is coming." "No," an old woman said, "2 babies." The dungeon fell silent. "Twins." Ama screamed in pain. A baby's cry filled the air. "It's a boy," the old woman whispered. Ama took a deep breath. Then another wave of pain hit her. Moments later, a second cry echoed through the dungeon. "A girl." The women exchanged nervous glances. In some villages, twins were seen as a blessing. In others, they were feared. No one knew how the castle's rulers would react. A guard standing near the iron gate heard the cries. His face was stiff, his eyes cold. He turned and walked away. The women knew what that meant. The castle had a rule. Anything unusual must be reported. The governor of the castle sat in his grand chamber, sipping from a golden cup. The air smelled of burning candles and foreign spices. A soldier entered and bowed. "Sir, a woman has given birth in the dungeon." The governor barely looked up. "And?" The soldier hesitated. "She had twins." Now the governor put his cup down. "Twins!" Beside him, a priest dressed in long robes leaned forward. "Sir, among their people, twins are special. Some say they bring power. Some say they bring trouble." The governor laughed. "Power? What power can 2 babies have?" The priest's voice dropped to a whisper. "There is an old belief that harming twins brings misfortune." The governor smirked. "Misfortune? This castle stands strong. The sea bows before us." He turned to the soldier. "Take the twins away and make sure their mother does not cause trouble." The soldier nodded and left. The priest sighed. He had warned them. Now, only time would tell what the spirits would do. Ama sat in the dungeon, holding her babies close. The other women whispered. "They will take them away," one said. Ama's heart pounded. "I won't let that happen." An old servant named Koko knelt beside her. "There is a way," she whispered. Ama looked at her with hope. "Tell me." Koko leaned closer. "There is a fisherman named Ebo. He can take them out by sea." Ama swallowed hard. "Will they be safe?" Koko touched her arm. "The sea carries both danger and hope, but it is their only chance." Ama looked at her babies. "Then we must do it." That night, while the soldiers laughed and drank, Koko led Ama through a secret tunnel beneath the castle. At the tunnel's end, waves rushed in. A small wooden boat rocked against the stone wall. Ebo, the fisherman, held out his arms. "Give them to me," he whispered. Ama kissed her babies, tears streaming down her face. "Be strong, my children." She placed them in a basket lined with cloth. The sea roared as Ebo paddled away. Ama collapsed against the tunnel wall. Koko held her. "The gods will guide them," she whispered. But neither of them saw the shadow watching from the darkness. A soldier had seen everything. The next morning, The governor was furious. "Find the fisherman! Find the twins!" Soldiers rushed to the shore, but the sea had already carried the boat far away. Abel paddled with all his strength. The babies lay quietly, as if they knew they had to be silent. But suddenly, a dark shape appeared in the water, a ship, and on the ship, soldiers. "They are coming," Abel gasped. He paddled faster, his arms burning. The shore was close, but the ship was closer. Then, just as the soldiers raised their weapons, a massive wave rose behind them. The ship rocked violently. Soldiers stumbled. Abel seized the moment and paddled toward land. The twins were safe, for now. On the shore, an old woman named Mame Sewa was gathering firewood. She saw Abel running toward her, carrying a basket. "What is this?" she asked. Abel gasped for breath. "Children, the castle, danger." Mame Sewa looked inside the basket. Her eyes softened. "The sea has given them to us." She took the twins in her arms. "They will be safe here." Kwabena and Adwa grew strong in the village. Kwabena had a way with the sea. He knew when storms would come. Fishermen followed his advice, and their nets were always full. Adwa had a voice that calmed even the wildest animals. When she sang, sick people felt better. One evening, an old traveler arrived. He saw the twins and froze. "Where did these children come from?" he asked. Mame Sawa hesitated. "Why do you ask?" The traveler's voice was heavy. "Because they were born in Elmina Castle." The twins stared. "The castle?" The traveler nodded. "Your mother was Ama. She never stopped waiting for you." The twins had to see for themselves. When they reached Elmina Castle, the air felt heavy. The walls seemed to whisper. They stepped inside. Soldiers watched them closely. An old woman sweeping the floor gasped. "It cannot be." "Kokor?" Kwabena asked. Tears filled her eyes. "You survived." She led them to the dungeon. "Your mother, she was punished for your escape." Kwabena clenched his fist. "Where is she?" Koko's voice trembled. "Gone, but her spirit remains." Koko took them to a secret room. Inside, dust-covered papers lay on a table. She picked one up. "Your mother wrote these letters for you." Adwa took one and read, "My children, if you find this, know that I loved you. The castle tried to break me, but I stayed strong, knowing you were safe. One day, you will return. And when you do, you must set the spirits free." Kwabena and Adwa looked at each other. They knew what they had to do. The twins stood by the sea, holding their mother's letters. "We must set them free," Adwa whispered. Kwabena nodded. They built a small fire. One by one, they placed the letters in the flames. As the fire rose, a strong wind blew from the sea. The waves roared, the castle groaned, and then silence. The spirits were free. The twins turned back, their mother's voice echoing in the wind. "My little stars, you are home." The fire burned low, the last of the letters turning to ashes. Kwabena and Adwa stood in silence, watching the wind carry the smoke into the sky. Suddenly, a loud boom echoed from the castle. The ground shook. The walls trembled. The villagers near the castle gasped. "What is happening?" The governor, now an old man, rushed to his balcony. His face paled. "What have they done?" The priest beside him whispered, "The spirits, they are free." The governor's hands shook. "No, I control this castle. I rule this land." The wind roared like 1,000 voices speaking at once. The air grew heavy. The governor fell to his knees, gripping his chest. "You cannot escape," the priest whispered. "The curse has come." The governor let out a final gasp, then collapsed. The castle doors swung open. The soldiers, afraid, dropped their weapons and ran. The spirits of the forgotten were finally free. After the castle grew quiet, Kwabena and Adwe knew there was one last thing they had to do. Koko led them to an old wooden door deep inside the castle. "Your mother once spoke of this room," she said. "It holds secrets that should never be forgotten." The twins pushed the door open. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old paper. Shelves lined the walls, filled with books, scrolls, and records. Adwa picked up a faded scroll. She unrolled it and gasped. This is a list of people taken from our village." Kwabena grabbed another scroll. "And these are names of the ones who never made it across the sea." The twins exchanged a look. Their mother had not only left behind letters, she had left behind the truth. "We must take this to the people," Kwabena said. "This is their history," Adwa whispered. The twins left the castle, carrying the scrolls wrapped in cloth. The villagers gathered around them. "What happened?" an elder asked. Kwabena took a deep breath. "The spirits are free, and we found something that belongs to all of us." They unrolled the scrolls, reading the names of the lost. Some villagers cried, others whispered prayers. A woman stepped forward. "My grandmother used to tell a story about her father who never returned from the castle. His name, it is here." An elder placed a hand on Kwabena's shoulder. "You have done something great." The village chief nodded. "This history was stolen from us. Now we will remember." That night, the village held a ceremony by the shore. Fires burned bright. Drums echoed across the waves. One by one, villagers spoke the names of those taken long ago. As the final name was spoken, the sea became still. The wind, which had howled all day, suddenly stopped. Then, a glow appeared on the horizon. It was faint, like the light of 1,000 tiny stars dancing on the water. Adwa felt a chill. "Do you see that?" Kwabena nodded. "They are here." The spirits of their ancestors had returned, not in anger, not in sorrow, but in peace. The sea had finally released them. Days passed. The castle remained empty. The people refused to go near it. One morning, Kwabena stood on a hill, looking toward the old stone walls. "What will happen to the castle now?" Adwa asked. Kwabena exhaled. "It should not be a place of fear anymore." The village elders agreed. They called the people together and made a decision. "We will turn it into a place of learning," the chief said. "A place where the truth will never be buried again." Over time, the castle became a place where people came to remember, to tell the stories of those who had been lost and honor their spirits. And the twins grew into leaders. Kwabena became a great fisherman, teaching others the ways of the sea. Adwa became a healer, using her voice to bring comfort and strength. But no matter where they went, they always returned to the castle to stand on its walls and listen to the waves. One evening, as they stood by the shore, an old woman approached. It was Koko. She smiled. "Your mother would be proud." Kwabena and Adwa smiled back. They were no longer just the twins who had escaped Elmina Castle. They were the ones who brought back the truth, and their story would never be forgotten.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an exciting new tale. See you in the next one.
From Africa to the Caribbean and the entire Afro diaspora, our stories are the heartbeat of our people. Tales of tricksters like Anansi, fearless warriors, magical spirit, and not forgetting timeless love and betrayal. Afro Tales Diary bring the stories to life. Folk tales of courage, magic, and lessons that unite us all. Afro Tales Diary, a world of tales just for you.